Welcome to episode 130 of Broad Street Hustle. I'm your host tonight, Tommy Nanny, bringing you an action-packed show filled with three sports. So should be a pretty good show. We're gonna touch on all of them. Go around the horn. I got Jason Sayeda.
Hey Tom, what's up?
Jason, how are you? I got Jimmy the Chalk,
What's going on?
and I got Christopher Michael Meeker.
Is that your twin brother next to you there?
And I got from the COVID years with the green beard. Meeker, no game behind you this week.
No.
The
I know
distraction.
I've been used to watching something every week. Uh, all right. Well, before we jump into our agenda, our show is sponsored by Giovanina's Pizza. You tried the rest, now try the best. Still with that coupon code if you order online during any football game. Enter Broad Street Hustle, buy one, get one free pie. They are the best. So we're going to start with the World Series, move into the Sixers, do a little Eagles recap, Eagles preview show, and then the picks. So obviously the World Series, I would predict probably going to be the highest rated World Series ever with the Dodgers and Yankees, the two coasts. We got the Dodgers. I saw a series price of minus 125. I believe that's the latest line, which I just checked. So Dodgers slight favorite. They are home. Um, I still thought 125 was on the higher side. I thought it'd be a little closer. Um, I don't know. It's not like overwhelming pitching in the series. It's obviously been hitting, timely hitting, home run hitting. So it's two kind of similar teams. I'm gonna go with you, Meeker. You had some notes and you went to drive it a little bit. So what is your thoughts here on the Dodgers Yankees World Series that does kick off tomorrow?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, look, it's the matchup of the two number one seeds. So no matter what we think, going into the playoffs, these were the two best teams in their respective leagues. And it's the matchup that MLB probably dreamed for, with what you said earlier, both coasts, the star power all over the field, with two MVPs, Otani and Judge, former MVPs with Betts, Freeman, Stanton, Soto, former Cy Young with Cole, etc. So the way I kind of broke it down is just kind of looking at each aspect of each team, and I'll get you guys input on what you think. And we'll start with the lineup. So for me, the lineups are a wash, and I think it's not just about the stars. I think it's about the complementary players that are stepping up for both teams, especially to the Dodgers, especially Edmonds, excuse me, Paez, Hernandez. I think that they scored more runs in 6 games in a playoff series than any team has ever scored. So Dodgers lineup is kind of hot. But I think the Yankees lineup is kind of clutch. You mentioned the clutch hitting, Soto, Stanton, and they've stepped up in the clutch. So for me, if I'm looking at these lineups side by side, do I want the hot team? Do I want the team that's, stepping up in the clutch? I'm going to call it a wash. I don't really think there's a big advantage. So I'll see what you guys think. I'll start with you, Tom. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's one of those that's hard to tell because I tend to think the Mets and Cleveland also underperformed a little bit in those series. So, and I don't really know how good the Mets were, and I don't really know how good the Cleveland was. So, yeah, I mean, you go up and down a lineup. Like, I would agree. I mean, I might lean more towards the Dodgers only because, like, the likes like Stanton. I know he's been like good in the playoffs, but like, I mean, Stanton that last series played out of his mind. And I don't know if you get that again from Stanton, where I think you're going to be like the Otanis, the Betts are going to be more of your consistent hitters. Judge is what Judge has been in the playoffs, and then Soto's just, he is really good. I think the break's going to be the biggest differential. Like, 4 days off seemed like a lot. I don't know if that break tends to be similar every year, but it seemed like it was a lot. And we see in baseball when teams get, that time off, if guys that were hot no longer are hot, you fall into a slump, so it's not a cop out because I don't know who's going to come off of it and look better. Um, I'll hold off on who I think the overall series, but yeah, I think the lineup, I think it's kind of a wash. I mean, like you said, it's equal of clutch hitting, power hitting, high OPSs, maybe slightly lean to the Dodgers on that.
Jay?
Yeah, I think the lineups are pretty even. So as far as the break is concerned, though, what I heard was the plan was if both series ended in 5 games or less, the series would have started Tuesday, 2 nights ago,
I think Wednesday, but
or
yeah.
Wednesday, whatever. But since it didn't, since the Dodger series went 6, then it starts tomorrow. Um, yeah, I think the lineups are pretty similar. Um, you got two superstars in each lineup. Um, the Dodgers probably have slightly better of a lineup if Freeman's banged up. That's the only thing. Like his ankle is an issue. So, um, yeah, I would still call it even. I think the rotations are pretty even. Probably give a slight edge to the Yankees in rotation.
I
But
think you have to give them edge to the Yankees just because you kind of know a little bit more what you're going to get from the Yankees than like the
and they
Dodgers
and
have
they're going to go. I
sloppy.
think they'll go with 4 starters, whereas the Dodgers I think are going to have a bullpen game
Yeah,
probably.
right, right.
So I would give a slight advantage there. I would probably give a slight advantage to the Dodgers bullpen though.
Hmm.
So I think it's going to be a very even series. I don't know if you want me to give my prediction yet or not, or how that's working, but I certainly could. I guess I could. Who cares? I'm going to take the Yankees in 7, just because I got plus 105. I'm getting plus money in a series that I think is even. I'm going to take the value. To me, that's value,
Yeah,
right?
I said I was leaning towards the Dodgers in 7 because the kind of the opposite. Like, why are the Dodgers a favorite then? Like, because to me that was strange.
Yeah, but what a good bet would be, and I didn't put it in yet, but I will, is I think it's going to be a long series, so I'll probably bet a
Yeah,
specific Yankees in 7, which I think was plus 4, almost like 5-1, I think. So I'll probably put that bet in. I might have even put it in, I forget, but um, if I didn't, I'm going to do it.
Talkie?
So Freeman says he's going to be 100%. Whether you believe that or not will remain to be seen. If he's playing, I think the lineup edge goes to the Dodgers. And even though their last World Series appearance was the Fugazi 2020 year, they have guys that have been here, whereas this is the first time that Judge and Stanton and that crew has. Soto obviously has experience from Washington, but
And Rizzo.
most and
Rizzo.
Rizzo, but your two big
and Cole.
stars, or your two long terms, that's their first time coming in. Um, I would agree, slight edge to the Yankees on the rotation, although Cole might be the best pitcher of the group. Um, Dodgers are actually getting some decent pitching out of. I think Bueller's actually started to pitch well, right? So he didn't pitch that well during the regular season. They got shelled. They pitched the worst in their bullpen game, right? I think against the Mets, they got shelled. So I don't know if they're planning on doing that for the World Series or not. I didn't read about that, but that could spell disaster. Um, and
Well, they
then,
picked the worst against was Flaherty was the started in game 5. That was Flaherty.
okay. So game 2 was a bullpen game. They got shelled, and then Flaherty was game 5. They got shelled too. That's right. Um, but I think the bullpen again, slight edge Dodgers. And even though it was, I'll say that the Cleveland series was one of the better, exciting 5-game series I can remember, because those last 3 games were down to the final at bats, one way or the other. So could have went either way, but Yankees were obviously a better team. As far as a prediction, there's one theme that we love on this podcast, and I'm going to go with that. And the last time the Dodgers and Yankees played in the World Series was 1981, when the Dodgers were led by an upstart Rookie of the Year and Cy Young winner named Fernando Valenzuela, who passed away yesterday. And therefore, the Dodgers will win in 6, just like they did in 1981.
Obviously, you
That's
guys
very
weren't
true.
alive for that, but Meeker and I, that's when like we were crazy into baseball. Like that was he was like,
Fernando Mania.
must see. Like like it was like an event when he was pitching.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said something. I was listening the other day on MLB Network that year that Valenzuela was, when Fernando Mania was around, they outdrew every other team in baseball by 10,000 per game. And it had a lot to do with how many they drew when Fernando was pitching.
Yeah, it was
What
like an
what
event.
made it what made it so good? Like what made him to
He
be
was just
Just
like
that much?
this superstar.
Mexico,
Like,
there's a lot of Mexicans in that area of the country, and he was Mexican, and it was like he was like the first Mexican pitcher really to come into Major League Baseball and dominate like that.
I mean, he was
So
unhittable. Like in his rookie year, like if you look at his stats, like he was like unhittable. Like he was
Won his
unbelievable.
first 8 games, 5 of which were by shutout.
Yeah, he
Pitched
was like
8
this
shutouts
phenom.
in the year. The other thing too is that was obviously the split season because of the strike. So
Yeah,
I don't know how much fans didn't come back after the strike in some of the other
that
ballparks.
was the reason. Yeah, they
But hey, LA, I don't know how different it was 40 years ago, but the thing about LA is you can't always get interest in the sports teams out there. They show up late. So if you're getting 10,000 more per game for the see the Dodgers, then that's a feat no matter how you look at it.
Well, the Dodgers, I think, actually draw fairly well. They're pretty popular now. They're probably the most popular sports franchise in Los Angeles. Or maybe the Lakers.
Lakers, but they're probably comparable. But I think that's still a late arriving crowd. And then you don't want to get caught in the parking lot after the game.
Yeah, the games are going to all be 8 o'clock. I'm going to assume. Right.
8:08, I believe.
So yeah, it's 5. Those games are 5 o'clock there. But
So since you guys kind of got into the rotation, I think when it comes to how I look at this series, I look at the rotation as being the most important part of it. And I just don't trust the Dodgers rotation. I know that, they got past last series by pretty much taxing their bullpen, and their bullpen had some good games and had some bad games. But at least the Yankee starters can give them some length. I don't really think the Dodgers starters can give them any length. At least maybe, Flaherty, even though he didn't pitch very good in his start, but he's the one guy that might be able to give him length. And I think what you had said earlier, Jason, with respect to the break, I think the break favors the Dodgers though, because they got their, they pitched a lot out of the bullpen, so they got a little bit more rest, and the fact that Freeman was hurt, so it gave him more time to rest. So I think the break does favor the Dodgers overall. But I really think it comes down to the 2 starts that Garrett Cole pitches. They win both of those starts. And if they win at least one of Rodon's starts, I think they win the series, because I don't think the Dodgers rotation can win for
I mean,
other.
you just gave them 3 games. They only got to win.
I mean,
Let me
I
ask
think
you
Garrett
this.
why do they win Cole? It's not like Cole's anything special. Like Cole's good.
Yeah, but I
He's
think
he's
that's
probably the
those are the
best.
games I think they have the best matchup.
He's
Because
probably the best starting pitcher in the series. But let me ask you this:
No,
if it
but
goes,
he's not automatically win 2
no,
games when his
no,
both
he's not.
starts. I mean,
He's not.
let
But I
me
think
ask you.
that's the path for them to win, though.
All right, let me ask you this. I was trying to figure this out, and then I forgot to continue to try to figure it out. But if it goes 7, I think Cole would pitch on 3 days rest. Does that sound right? Because they would have the day off between
They would,
game 2
we
and
definitely
3,
pitch on 3 games if they want to pitch him.
and
Yeah.
then the day off between games 5 and 6.
Yeah.
So I think he would be able to go on 3 days rest.
And maybe with a short leash, get him through 4 or 5 innings, or if they want to bring him in later in the game, they could. But everywhere else, with respect to like the bullpens themselves, I think that's very close. Maybe give a slight edge to the Dodgers. Defensively, I might give a slight edge to the Dodgers. Manager, maybe even slight edges to the Dodgers. But in the end, I think it really is the lack of starting pitching that hurts them enough to lose the series. And I'm going to pick the Yankees in 7. I'm with Jason
So
on
then
that.
I'm not going to win then.
and wait, just out of
Who knows when
curiosity,
so when that
Chalky,
happens,
who do you have left? Chalky, who do you have left in the World Series for your free dinner?
Dodgers.
Dodgers.
Oh, you
Dodgers.
picked the Dodgers.
Meeker versus
Meeker,
Chalky.
who do you have Meeker, who do you have left in your
Yankees.
and you okay, so no biases there, got it.
Hey, I usually try to reverse
It
jinx
really
it.
isn't
So
because
it's
of that
like,
at all.
So
It isn't because of that at all.
one thing I will say, like, and it's again, it's not a cop out with baseball, man. Like, you do not. It's impossible to predict these games. This series, like the bullpens are good until the bullpens are not good anymore, and you don't know
Yeah.
Yep.
when that's going to happen. I
Yeah.
mean, it happened with Cleveland. It happened with the Phillies. Like going into these series, the Cleveland's bullpen was the best bullpen in baseball. They were terrible.
Yeah.
Like,
Most,
and it wasn't Yankees hitting.
And
The
Cleveland
bullpen
got
was
to the
not
Cleveland got to the Yankees bullpen
I
right.
couple
So
mean,
it's
times.
like
you,
you
you
just
guys
don't
know,
know
like
until
the way you bet baseball is you look at the starting pitcher. So whoever's got the best starting pitchers,
yeah, but
you
they're
want to
coming
move.
out after 4 innings in these games.
Well, especially the Dodgers pitchers are, because none of them can really give them any length.
Unless you're the Phillies, when your batters don't want to actually let balls get called balls and take walks like the Dodgers did.
Yeah.
In that case, your
I
starting
just can't,
pitchers don't matter.
I can't see the Dodgers scoring like the abundance of runs that they were scoring against the Mets in this series. And I think that's the way they have to win, because I think they're going to give up a lot of runs. Because I'm not trusting their starting pitching, and that's why I'm leaning Yankees.
I mean, the only thing I will say is didn't they had 23 straight scoreless innings at one point in the playoffs? Like
Hmm.
Yeah.
I just think baseball, it's like the guys get hot. They're street. Even pitchers get hot. Pitchers get cold. Hitters get hot. And it's just whether it happens now or doesn't happen now. And it just I just think it makes it very, very hard to predict these
The
outcomes.
Padres were tearing the cover off the ball until they didn't score for the last 20, whatever, 25 innings of that series. So,
Right.
Yeah, crazy. It's a coin flip.
All right. Anything else, Jason? You said you had a couple plays that you mentioned.
Yeah, I did 2 MVP bets. I did one for each team. I did Teoscar Hernandez. I think I got 20-1 on him. And then I did Gleyber Torres at 30-1 because he's really come alive in the playoffs. So I thought 30-1 was value on him.
Yeah, he was kind of like the forgotten guy in that Met series too. Teoscar, right?
Yeah.
I think he had that one almost home run, but he was like not the centerpiece of a lot of those like big innings and stuff. So
No, but he's a good player. So
very good. Yeah, very good.
yeah,
One thing I'll say also about the Dodgers, of course, Stanton, Soto, they've been coming up clutch. The guys that the Dodgers, kind of added, like a Tommy Edman, who had
yeah,
awesome series, were guys that they picked up during the season, and we talked about how the Phillies, the pickups that we've made did not pan out.
no.
And the Dodgers may be in the position they're in because of pickups that they've made that did pan out.
Yeah. But
It's really important.
their game one starter is a deadline deal
yeah, Dombrowski didn't do his job.
for
Yeah,
a team
even
that
the
still made the
teams. I mean,
playoffs.
even the teams that got knocked out, and Jason, I think, alluded to this during the Phillies podcast. Those guys were good. Like Tommy Pham was good at the time that the Detroit was winning. Thomas for Cleveland was good for a time when they were winning. Like every other team got guys that were contributing.
Every guy we talked about and the Phillies didn't get, like, did
Yeah.
decent for the other. Could
Yeah,
have been a big contributor to the Phillies.
Dombrowski should be on the hot seat after this year.
Okay. All right. Let's. Second on our agenda is we're going to touch a little bit on the Sixers. And not the game last night because that isn't, but just like the whole Embiid situation. I know we had a show last week where I think we talked a little bit about how many games we think Embiid might play, and how many games George and Embiid are going to play. Well, it's not a good start to the season when both of them sit. Now George has an injury. Embiid is just maintenance stuff that he was not ready to play. So, I mean, one thing you could say for certain is the team just. This team has no ability to communicate to like the fans and all this Embiid stuff. That's right off the bat. But I mean, Jason, is this Embiid thing? Like, what's your thoughts? Is it a maintenance thing? Is this a 40-game season that they're just trying something they've never tried before? So let's give it a shot and see if this works.
Yeah, I don't buy that. My fear is it seems like it's a degenerative knee issue, which is what we all kind of feared would eventually happen with him. I mean, I have no defense for them all of a sudden coming out, what was it, Tuesday, and saying, "Oh, by the way, Embiid's going to miss the first week of the season." For what? And then and I know Nick Nurse is kind of like
Yeah, he's caught in the
thrown in
middle
the
of it.
middle of it, like, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, he's progressing well." I'm like, "What is he progressing well from? Like, what from what? Like, did he slip and fall on a banana peel at some point, like a week ago, or like what happened?" Because he played in the Olympics, so it's not like it's a carryover from when he got hurt in the playoff or whenever he got hurt last year. So I kind of, I'm kind of, I don't know. This doesn't sound good for his knee. Like, I don't know. I don't know what they're trying. I mean, for them to try it from the first week, like, what sense does that make? Like,
I mean, could he have could he have just not come back from the Olympics in shape like the shape that they
well, they're
he has
saying he
been.
lost weight and stuff. I mean, if he didn't
Yeah.
come back in shape, then that's an even bigger issue. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what? Like, are
He
you
lost 20,
surprised?
20, 25 pounds, they said.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I will mention that I did watch the game last night, and obviously they had no chance to win the game. But I do like Caleb Martin a lot. He's a good player. He's a guy that has balls. We're always looking for players that have balls that could step up in the playoffs. He seems to be one of them. Yabusele looks like he's going to be a good guy off the bench. And they were rebounding well, but I don't know if they were rebounding well just because Drummond was in the game instead of Embiid, but they seemed to be rebounding well last night. So I still, if Embiid is all right, I still think they have a nice team, but I don't know.
My thing is
Yeah,
something that you mentioned, and that's why did he even play in the Olympics? I mean, if this is something that is going on
I don't
and
know.
is chronic, I mean, the United States, I mean, first of all, he didn't even play for his home country, really. He played for the United States, which makes it even worse. And like, I don't understand why you would even play. If you have a chronic knee injury, what's more important? Is it playing for the Sixers when the Sixers start the season, or is it playing in the Olympics? So hopefully we don't hear that this was something that was born from being in the Olympics or playing an extra 3 weeks or 4 weeks of basketball. And now he's compromised for the season, because that would be tragic.
yeah, chalky.
Yeah, I mean,
What,
I was
what you,
dead set against him playing in the Olympics in the first place. The only I don't agree with the arguments, but some people made the arguments. Well, if he's around the best in the world and he is with a winning culture, which he has been with the Sixers, and okay, like you're with LeBron, you're with Steph, whatever. I mean, I didn't think it was going to make that much of a difference at all for him. But when you come into the playoffs hurt and you re-aggravate that in the playoffs, and you had the Bell's palsy and whatever, like just relax. You got it knocked out in the first round, just rest up. Didn't like him going to the Olympics. And then to what Jason said about the team's messaging, I mean, it's just continuously blunder after blunder for the last almost decade now with these guys. And, there was zero talk about any issues until, a week ago. There were some rumors. Well, he was on an injured, like when they came out with a report after George got hurt in the game, like Embiid was listed too. And it's like, well, what's this about? And then like the beat reporters that were able to see practice said Embiid was going through full workouts. He looked good. They expected him to play last night. And then it was like, now we're sitting him for the first 3 games. So if this was part of a whole plan, it would have been much, more transparent to say that weeks ago. So I don't buy that. Whether he's really aggravated something, I don't know. They said he looks fine in practice, but I just I don't trust this team's judgment when it comes to that kind of stuff. So who the hell knows? And it's not the kind of way you want to start the season, but hopefully you get 55 games out of him, which would, if you got that last year, would have been enough to be the like 4 seed, I think, at that point. But I'm fine not risking playoff health for early season games, but when you're just like, yeah, he's missing the first 3 games, and it's not even like you can say they're bad teams. Like Milwaukee is a potential top 3 or 4 team in the East. It's a marquee game you want to play. Now
yeah,
the NBA is going to investigate it. So do you want that too? No.
yeah.
What's
We'd catch
concerning to me is
a
like
bad fine.
if he like tweaked it in practice, I think they would have said it. So like
Yeah,
So
that's what makes you think it's
I think so. I think they have a particular set of amount of games they want to play, and I don't think it's in the 50s. I think it's under the 50 mark. I think they want them to play whatever 40 half the games, 40 to 45 games. And what were they wanted they don't and to do that, I mean you got to play half the game. Like they have to figure out half of the game for him to so he's going to miss stretches. It can't be like every back to back. That's not enough games. So they're not going to play him in the home opener just to play him in the home opener because fans want him. It's the league, and then sit him the next 3 games because then people are really going to say, "Wait, we're sitting him." You know what I mean? I think it's a strategy that they have, right or wrong, and probably more than likely wrong, but a strategy they have to limit the amount of games and to do it was easier to just not start him the first week and you miss 3 games and then bring him back and then sit him and then bring so he might after the All-Star break miss 3 games like in stretches like that opposed to just the back and back. And I mean the Paul George thing wasn't planned. Like the plan was to have him play. And I think they think with Maxey and George they can win basketball games with Maxey, George, and Drummond. Not like last year when Embiid doesn't play, they have no shot. Meaning they still can get the 3, the 4 seed with those players and Embiid playing half of the games. And I just think they went with their for 8 years or whatever they played how they played it, and he's hurt every playoffs. He breaks down at the end of every year, and they're out in the second round. So it's like we're running out of time. This is our strategy that we're going to try this time around. Hopefully, by limiting them, we're going to have them in the playoffs.
yeah,
I
I
don't think
think
it's the right
I
decision.
think the league has a gigantic problem. I mean, we have somebody on the podcast who has season tickets. Like, is that acceptable to you? Like, that's not acceptable to me. Like,
I mean, it made it easy for me not to go to the game last to sell the
I
tickets. That
mean,
was for sure.
No,
I,
I think they have. Yeah,
they're going
for
to get
league
sure.
fined.
has an issue.
I don't see how this whatever investigation doesn't result in them getting. They instituted was it last year? They're going to start fining
Yeah,
teams heavily if they
I
don't
know,
play
but
guys that are healthy.
I don't think they particularly care all that much about the fines and all
Sixers
that
may
stuff.
not, but the league's not going to be happy about it because the league is trying to look. They're selling a television product, but they're trying to sell a product on the court too, and so
Yeah,
they
but
don't
I'm
want
saying
people buying these tickets.
I
And
don't
then
think the Sixers care. Yeah, I'm saying
The
I don't
Sixers
think
may not. I mean, there may not be something the league can do that will really change the Sixers' mind. But now that was your big matchup for night 2 of opening night, and you didn't have your other big star or 2 of your other big stars. George was not foreseeable, but um, you know,
Look, when it comes to this load management thing, though, like there's no other player in the league that they're going to treat like the Sixers are going to treat him.
Well, Kawhi
And
Leonard.
Kawhi is
well,
the
with
other one.
Kawhi, it's different. I mean, he's always hurt too, but
How's it different?
well, he's out for a couple months,
Yeah,
or maybe.
how's it different? I mean, they did the same
What
thing with Kawhi.
yeah, but I mean,
Faced, I'm not going to curse, but the Spurs pop faced, you know what, coach is the one that started all this,
yeah.
and the league now it's been building and building and building to the point where now it's becoming ridiculous, and
yeah,
it's
it's
becoming a problem now for the league.
Well, but to
He
your point,
started it.
if it is a chronic injury, if that's what it is, and if it's degenerative knee problems and stuff like that, the load management with him is much more like appropriate than what the league does with some of these other star players to just give them nights off.
yeah, but
You know,
I
so,
also think they might be able to argue, and this could go into it like this isn't load management. Although it's not an injury, we didn't feel he was in basketball shape to start. Meaning, load management is he plays a game, the next game, nothing happened, we give him a day off. Here it's like, well, he didn't start the season because he's not ready, so we didn't. You know what I mean? To
yeah,
Chuck's point, where if the league
yeah,
tries to
yeah.
argue,
Look,
they might not be able to prove anything.
Then why
Saying
wouldn't they just come out a week ago and say, "Oh, Embiid tweaked his knee in
well,
practice"?
I gotta imagine that's because for season for tickets and stuff like to not, or the league might even know about it, and the league's like, "Wait, we're promoting this game, blah blah blah." Hey, who knows? There's so much that goes on.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
Yeah.
think it's all bullshit. I agree, but I think that's what it
I mean,
is.
it probably puts less panic in the fans to say, "Oh, this is where we're working them up." But as fans, we're sitting here saying, like, "What the f?" Like, you just don't know what's going. You don't know what to believe, as opposed to just, well, he tweaked his knee or whatever.
I just think they don't care. I mean, the bottom line is if it works and they win the
No, they
championship,
don't
nobody's
care.
going to care.
I don't
But
think
I'm
they. No,
saying
I
if
think
it
you're
works
right.
and they win, ain't nobody going to say, well, he didn't play in the first game of the season. I don't want this championship. You know, it just has to work, which I don't think it will, but it just has to work.
Well, what do you do to resolve it if you're the league? Like, what can you do? You can find teams and all that, and they don't care, just like
You
you said.
gotta,
Like,
you gotta,
what else can you do?
You take
I
draft picks.
Take draft picks
yeah,
away. Yeah.
draft picks is probably your next. That's kind of what all the leagues do. I mean,
The
I
one
don't
that
think.
suffers is just the fans. The fans are the only ones that are really suffering. The
Yeah.
teams are still making the same decisions.
I mean, it's like Jason said, it's been building over the last decade or so, whatever. And you see these stories about fan travels from whatever for their one chance to see Steph
Hmm.
Curry and Steph Curry
I,
sit. And it wasn't like, oh, he tore his ACL and that was it. It
I
was
mean,
like,
the
oh,
NFL
it's his
does
rest
it.
night.
The NFL changes games from Sunday to Monday in the week of, or 2 weeks when people have trips. I mean, Meeker goes on how many different football trips? Like
Yeah.
maybe I can't go on Monday. I got my trip scheduled, and they change it to Monday. The league
Yeah.
doesn't say, "Oh, we care. We don't care." They don't care. I mean, that's just they don't care.
That
I mean,
ticket,
that's
that
just the
ticket
way
is
it's going
sold.
to be.
Whether you do anything, whether you go to that game or not, that ticket's sold. They're not they're not giving you your money back.
Luckily, the Saints stink now, so Mickey, you don't have to worry about that.
Well, he could
Not
just
for the rest of the year,
pick
no.
another favorite team at some point and then start
Yeah, don't
traveling
pick
around the
Kansas
country.
City or Ravens. You might get.
No, pick like the Lions or something. Right, they're up
There
and
you go.
coming and all, and then
Why not?
you could start following them around the country.
Move on.
Okay. Let's move on now to the football portion of the show. The Eagles recap here a little bit, and I mean we'll get into the recap of last week's game, but I have a few like questions around it because I mean that was kind of a blowout game. Jason, you could touch on it real quick, and if the guys had anything particular from the game.
Yeah, I mean the Eagles dominated the game with yards, sacks, etc. Rushing yards 269, passing yards 70, um, which we could probably get into at some point. Which
That's part of some of the
Yeah.
questions that I have here. So.
eventually that's going to become an issue. But they, to me, did they just bully a bad team with a bad quarterback and a missing left tackle? The defense looked really good, but again, they had those issues. But they look good. They look good against Cleveland and the Giants. Not going to get into the next game, but we'll see. One concerning thing I saw was they were 1 for 13 on third down.
Yeah.
But they were 3 for 3 on fourth down. But a lot of them are going to be the rugby scrum crap that they do. So, I mean, they destroyed the Giants. I was wrong. I think a few of us were wrong. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but they just blew
Yeah,
them out.
I was one of those wrong, and it wasn't the Eagles. I think I overestimated a little bit the Giants were a poor football team in that game.
They're
Whether
just
you look,
Yeah, they were missing their left tackle. That didn't help. But they're
their
you know
offense was a bit,
Jones is
Daniel.
he's a bad quarterback.
Yeah, and those third downs that the Eagles didn't convert, I mean, were because a lot in part because of Jalen Hurts. I mean, that kind of goes into what I have later. But there was a play where Devontae Smith was wide open over the middle.
And he
He
didn't
held the
throw it.
ball and he
Yeah.
doesn't throw it. Then he throws it away. He took a bad sack in one of them that he had. I think it was Saquon or somebody in the flat. Who knows if that's first down, but like usually third down teams are good because the quarterback is the reason
Correct.
why third down teams are good, and that's their biggest issue, I think. Meeker, anything quickly on the recap of this game?
No, not too much. I mean, Jason brought up the one stat that obviously offensively, stood out to me, and that's 1 for 13 on third downs. Then, of course, we talked about the fourth downs, and one of their big plays came on fourth down. But I guess if you can run the ball like they did, and you don't have to pass the ball, and you can win by 20 plus points, I guess you wouldn't have to pass the ball. So, but of course, that's not going to be the case this week, as we'll talk about. But yeah, they played a really bad football team. Their defense started to get home with the sacks, and it's 2 weeks in a row that their defense has played a little better, but against two bad quarterbacks. So, this is going to be a different kind of week for sure when it comes to the quarterback that they're playing against. But I mean, it's funny when you mix in a blitz every once in a while, how you can get to the quarterback. And for the last 2 weeks, we've seen that happen mainly because of the quarterbacks they're playing, though, because they don't have to worry about them hurting them.
Yeah, I mean, I will to give. I mean, I've been kind of hard on the Eagles this year, but to give them credit, like Vic Fangio is a good coach, and now he understands his. He's learning his personnel just by watching film too. So he's now Cooper DeJean's in the slot. He got Avante Maddox. Like that was a big change of why the defense is playing better. Like you said, they're like Nakobe Dean looked good on the blitz. Like he's learning it. So there is a
Yeah,
little improvement as well as playing the bad teams. It'll be a big measuring stick, but I mean you do got to give them a little credit on their ability to. They have improved defensively at least.
sure.
Meeker?
I already went.
I
Chalky?
mean, Chalky?
Yeah, I mean, we were all wrong on whether it would be close or not because we thought it would be a close game no matter who was going to win. So that was where we were off. And 25 points is the Eagles' biggest win since the divisional round in 22 against the Giants and Daniel Jones, and their biggest regular season win since Week 14 against the Giants and Daniel Jones. Do you sense a theme there? Look,
Dude, he hasn't thrown a touchdown at home in 689
No,
days.
he is.
Did you
yes,
see that?
He's
it's crazy. It's crazy.
That's insane.
So bad.
Look, you play two of the worst quarterbacks in the league. So I'm not going to be effusive about the defense, but when you keep teams out of the end zone for 2 consecutive weeks, you got to give them some credit. And I think they only had 2 red zone possessions in those games in total. So give the defense credit. They're doing some things better, whether that's the competition or Fangio combination. Guys are making plays. It was a star game in a revenge scenario for Barkley. Hurts had a pretty bad game as far as I'm concerned. Yes, 4th down ball to A.J. Brown was a great throw, but 10 for 14 doesn't begin to tell the story because there were sacks he took that he didn't need to take, and there were times when he threw away, when he held off pulling the trigger when he should have, and just not a good game from him. But 2 straight games without a turnover, maybe that's a step in the right direction. I'd rather see him not turn the ball over, pull it back and not turn it over. But that's about the only positive I can take out of the game from Hurts is that he didn't turn the ball over.
He almost did in the red zone, but they got it back. But I think the game was well in hand by that time. I think they were up by like 17 points or something like that when he fumbled, but didn't matter.
Was that off the snap?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was when he was trying to reach for extra yards. I think he got the first down and then he fumbled it and then they picked it up.
Oh,
right at the
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, when he got hit real hard.
Yeah, he got hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, the other thing too, it hurts. He didn't even almost turn. I know you just said it, but like there wasn't really many plays where interceptable balls or anything like that. So I don't know if that's credit to the coaching staff to kind of simplify it or him but I mean the teams were bad. No, so quickly before we get into the preview of the Eagles Cincinnati. So it's three questions in one. You guys you'll take it how you want to take them, and you can mesh them all together, Jason. So, can the Eagles be good with Hurts as your quarterback? Are the Eagles a good team? They stand at 4-2 right now, and are they a playoff team? Jason,
So you're asking me?
Yeah, you start.
Can they be good with Hurts? No, because I don't think he's a good quarterback. I think he clearly it's almost 2 years now that he's been a bad quarterback, right?
But can they still be? I agree, he's a bad quarterback. But can they hide his deficiencies and run the ball like they did with Barkley last? Is there like they did in 22 where he ran the ball? Like can they?
I mean,
or has
you're
teams
not going to be a
figured out?
contender. You're not going to be a contender. Could you sneak into the playoffs because you're in a bad division? Probably, right? But you're not going to be a contender with him as your quarterback. Like, And everybody's going to point to, oh, well, they were one play away from winning the Super Bowl. They were, but that was before the defensive coordinators had a chance to watch tape of him and figure out what his.
It's Bill Belichick completely ruined them with that simulated pressure, and they
Mhm.
showed it on the telecast. There was a play where they condense in the pocket, and then they stop, and as
Yeah,
soon as they stop, Hurts bows out, and then all the players are just sitting there waiting for him
yeah,
for when he rolls out because he
yeah,
feels pressure that isn't there,
yeah.
and that's it. He has no ability to step up. He just rolls out.
One guy I enjoy listening to because he really knows the game is Greg Cosell, and he knows his stuff. And he did a podcast today with Ross Tucker, and he just obliterated Jalen Hurts, just obliterated him. And if you guys haven't listened to it, you should. Basically, he's just saying like he doesn't understand the basic concepts of the quarterback position. Like that's scary to hear from a guy who studies tape and knows his crap. Like he knows what he's talking about. Um, so I'm sorry. So your questions were, could they,
So while you said they can't be good with Hurts, are they
I mean, I
good?
think they could make the playoffs.
They're a 4-2 team right now.
They're a 4-2 team, right? They've just beaten two horrific teams, right? So I think that goes into it because I mean, you know, that throw to Brown, and Tommy and I have talked about this. Like, I swear that is the easiest throw for a quarterback to make. Like, you put air under the ball and you let your wide
I,
receiver go and get the ball.
I,
Like
and I,
that's not a hard throw to make.
and if
I'm
you
sorry.
watch the play's over once Brown gets position because Brown
Kind of
completely
pushed
slows
off a little, which is
and
fine,
but
but
he slows his route up to he's like almost a slight jog.
yeah, you're
So
just
all he
putting
has to
air
do is
under it and letting your
and that
guy go
defender
get it.
can't get around him, and it makes him.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. I mean, he still made the read, and he was under pressure, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's that hard. Chalky. So how about for you? I mean, can you win with Hurts today? I mean, how he plays today, and are the 4-2 Eagles a good football team, and are they a playoff team?
I think they're a playoff team because of the quality of the rest of the league. I don't think they're a good team right now. I haven't seen enough for me to consider them a good team. If the defense continues to improve and show that these last 2 weeks were not a fluke and Hurts does not turn the ball over, they can be a good team. I don't see this being a team that is a good or a great team because Hurts is a good or a great quarterback at this point. He's got to do a lot more. He's not doing a lot wrong as far as turning the ball over, but he's not doing a lot right in these last two games. That shows he's getting over some of the stuff that Jason was saying, whether it's reads or not understanding the position or whatever. So, I mean, you could be a good team if everything else around you is really good and your quarterback is just okay. But this is not. I don't feel confident in Hurts being able to put the team on his back.
Yeah, I mean, there's teams that we've seen where quarterbacks are like meh, are like all-time defensive teams, the 2001 Ravens or whatever it was. Like
Yeah.
you're talking about teams that were just the defenses were insane. Even that Tampa
Yeah,
team that
and you see like a team goes on it, like you get a heater like Nick Foles went on for 3 games and you win a Super Bowl. So it's in spurts anybody can play well, but it's the defense first teams, you haven't really seen them in the last mid decade or so, I would think, at least, except for maybe that Denver team when Manning was shot. That was maybe like the last real
I got
defense
news
first
for you.
team.
I think that Chiefs team is all defense, and their offense is all smoke and mirrors at this point.
Well,
I
I
mean,
mean, this year it could be, yeah, but
last year too, in the Super, the only reason they had a shot was their defense was phenomenal in the first half of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
but Mahomes is a top whatever quarterback.
Yeah, sure. Mika, same set of questions for you.
Um, I sent him. I kind of second some of what Chalky said with respect to the league. Do I think the Eagles are a playoff team? I do, because I think the rest of the league and 7 teams in a playoff means that you don't have to be great to get into the playoffs. When it comes to the quarterback, look, they're going to lose games against quarterbacks that are superior to him, and most of them are going to be in the playoffs, mainly because I don't trust them. I don't trust them not to turn the ball over. I don't trust them to make the right reads. He's getting, last week, against the Giants, how many times he get sacked? 5 or 6 times, holding the ball, way too long
5 at least.
against the Giants team. I think he's at his best when he, if you look back to 2022, he's at his best when he's running, and making a lot of plays with his legs. And a play like that could win a game for you, rather than with your arm. But, you're a quarterback, your arm and your throws are probably the most important part of your position. So when he goes against some of these better teams in the playoffs and he has to face a Jordan Love or a Jared Goff or someone like that, Brock Purdy even, I can't see, unless the defense just kind of stands on their head, I can't see them winning a game like that, especially if it's on the road.
When he plays against man, which he'll play, they're playing Jacksonville soon, right? Is that next week, Jacksonville?
Next week, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 weeks.
He's going to tear them up because he's good against man. His problem is zones. Can't read them, doesn't know where to put the ball. And I don't think he's a good passer on top of it. I just don't. I don't think he's a good passer. I don't think he's a good thrower of the ball. But the
And I
main
think those are the weeks that they're gonna lean on the run. They're gonna go run heavy and then try to get favorable matchups and limit. Like, look, he only threw 14 times. I think he dropped back for 20. Maybe it was
21. He dropped back 21 times. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not championship style football, but I'm kind of thinking that they're going to try to limit his chances to make mistakes. And if that means chew up the clock a little bit and, hope if your defense is playing well that they'll keep the other team off the board. And then if you break a 50-yard run, you might be able to hit a pass in a zone coverage and get a touchdown. But I think that's when they're going to go run heavy, especially is when you don't get these man matchups.
The problem is that this is like, you can't really do that anymore in this league. Like, this is a passing league. Like, that might have worked 20 years ago.
You're not going to win a championship.
Yeah. I heard Mark Sanchez said they were talking about like Hurts. Why doesn't he play under center? And that's been a big thing. And obviously he's not comfortable with it. And then Mark Sanchez and I didn't catch why or if he heard it from somewhere, if it was just his analysis being a quarterback. So but he said there's quarterbacks, and he thinks Hurts is one of them, that when they're under center and they do a play action, and when you do a play action under center, your back goes to the defense, right? And when you turn around, he's not able to turn around and then see the field again and discern like what he sees. Meaning, like, I guess it resets his field of view, and now the players are in different spot. I mean, it sounds like he's dumb, but and that's why they don't do, because under center is only going to work if he's going to be in play action. He's not going to go under center and drop back and pass like a regular pass. He stinks at that. So it has to be those play actions, and that's why for a quarterback to do play action and then get confused. I mean, that's, to Jason's point, like the basis of a quarterback. He has no ability to be a quarterback. It's insane.
I mean, look, the two times he didn't pull the trigger and the plays we mentioned, for me, those were damning, because one of the things I've kind of held on to was, look, if you can simplify the offense and if you can just run schemes that gets guys open, you don't have to be a great quarterback. You just got to make easy throws. And that Smith play, it was the same mesh concept that they burned Cleveland on the week before, that they burned the Saints before, and it runs to perfection, and Smith is right there, and he hesitated, and then it was too late. And the same thing with Barkley. Might got a touchdown, hesitated too late. And they were able to get to the end zone anyway, but you can't make those mistakes against a 49ers or a Lions.
Well, right.
Or
the
whatever.
Difference is he made the mistake, and then on fourth down he throws the pass to Brown. That pass to Brown on fourth down ain't gonna work. Yeah, that ain't gonna work.
So I mean, it's like, if the team can scheme a play where a guy gets that wide open, he has to be able to make that throw
in front of him. I mean, the ball that I think in 6 games he's threw to the middle of the field 4 times so far. I mean, so that was disturbing.
Wasn't that why they brought in Kellen Moore? Is because he's a quarterback-friendly coach that basically schemes his offense to have easy throws.
And he did. He did that for Dak, but I don't like Hurts either refuses to make those throws.
I think Dak's better. He's just better quarterback.
No, but I'm saying he did all that play action, and Dak had a lot of wide open guys and easy throws. but like Hurts, I don't know if you don't see him or he's looking for a bigger play. I don't know the
That's
answer.
a good point. Maybe that is
I don't. Maybe.
you know,
Yeah. I don't know.
it seems like the only pass he has confidence in is the deep ball.
Yeah, the
To
AJ
The
Brown.
deep ball to Brown. I mean, look, Brown.
yes.
Brown is. I think PFF has him as like the second best receiver this year so far, or whatever. I don't even know his number one, but um,
Chase probably.
Brown is really, really good,
Um,
and you can get away with that in single coverage. But you saw
Nico.
last year in the Seahawks game, especially, he checked into Brown and threw it into double coverage, and like he's throwing interceptions. So it's only going to work so much, and that can't be your out every time. Is we'll just throw it deep to AJ Brown.
All right, well, so that brings us to this week. And Meeker, I'll let you go first here. Eagles, since he's sitting at -3 right now, 102 and a 48 over under. What do you think?
Well, as we were talking about earlier, the Eagles face the best quarterback they've had to face this year, and it's a pivotal game, I think, for both teams. The Bengals, ironically, beat the same two teams in the last 2 weeks as the Eagles have, which is weird that happened based on the schedule. And they won 3 of the last 4. They could have very likely won 4 of the last 4 if they beat Baltimore in overtime, but they lost that one. Burrow's been very good, as expected. He's been sacked about the league average, so he's cutting down a little bit on his sacks from last year. I expect the Bengals to throw a lot because the rushing attack is one of the league's worst. So the big test this week for the Eagles cornerbacks. And I expect them to not blitz as much as they have in the last couple of weeks because of that reason. Because I don't think they can win on man-to-man coverage against these wide receivers. Overall, from the defensive side of the ball, Bengals pass rush is okay, but the run defense hasn't really been good this year because they've been missing like two-fifths of their defensive line, which they're getting back now. So I think that's a little bit overblown that the Bengals run defense has been bad. I think the Eagles are going to have to throw this week, to kind of keep pace because I don't think that the defensive line, you guys that are getting back from the defensive line on the Bengals are going to make it easy for them to run. But I think they'll get the ball into Barkley's hands enough, for him to have a good game. Since he's D had they're not very good on third. Well, since he's D has been bad against third and manageable, meaning that I think they're going to run the ball in third and short rather than pass it. So maybe not as much of that, but it's running the ball on third down. But I think it's going to come down to a last possession game. I think it's a very close game. I think because Cincinnati's home, I'm going to lean Cincinnati 23-20. I think it's going to be a little bit of a more lower scoring game than most people are predicting. I've been seeing scores out there in the 30s. I'm going to go 23-20 Cincinnati. I think they need it a little more than the Eagles do too.
All right, Jason, how about you?
Yeah, I think it's a tough game. Something still isn't exactly right with the Bengals. The Browns actually outgained them last week by a lot. I think they got a kick return, Bengals, so that helped
Yeah,
them. But
early in the game, right?
Yep.
first play of the game, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but like I said earlier, I think the Eagles just beat up on a bad team last week. They beat up on a bad team the week before. Now, Meeker mentioned that Bengals played the Browns too. So, but I just think the Eagles kept running the ball down the Giants' throat, like we mentioned. We already brought up the hurt stuff. So I just don't believe in this Eagles team. I think 4-2 is just, I think they're mediocre 8 or 9 win team this year. I think the Bengals do need the game, like Meeker said. I'm going to go Bengals 26-20.
Okay. Chalky.
So I was reading today. This is the first time these two teams have played since Burrow's rookie year, where he was sacked 8 times. If they sack him 8 times on Sunday, they'll have a pretty good chance to win. Don't think they're going to get that many. This could be the best pair of receivers they face all year in Chase and Higgins. So I expect Cincinnati to throw early and often. I think it's going to come down to, can the offense, avoid turning the ball over, especially in key situations, and can they end up winning a shootout like they had to do in the first week against Green Bay? And my feeling is no. I have Cincinnati 33, Eagles, like my two previous colleagues, 20.
Okay, and I'll finish it off. And I would probably lean to kind of what Jason said. I just still don't think these Eagles team is very good. Um, Hendricks is a really good pass rusher, and he's going to be against Fred Thomas, right? Again, so I mean that could be a real big problem, especially if they have to throw the ball to just keep pace. Which I think they'll be able to move, and but I see this being a game where Hurts is going to inevitably turn the ball over, maybe even multiple times. I do think it's going to be a close game because I also do not think the Bengals are very good. I don't think they're a very good team either. I think they're in the same boat as the Eagles of an average football team, with the exception that they have Burrows and Chase and playmakers on offense. But so do the Eagles. I mean, so yeah, I had it sitting right on the number 30-27. So if that line moves to 3.5 or down to 2.5, that tells you something. But I had it right on the number 30-27, and I could see it being like a game-winning field goal, with a minute left and the Eagles don't score, even at end of clock field goal. But I do have Cincinnati winning 30-27. Everybody has the Eagles lose. That might be the first time,
I think it might be, yeah.
which means they probably will win this game.
Well, you haven't picked against the Eagles till this year, I think. So there's
I
only
thought they- I
what's
thought they
that?
were-
If it falls to two and no, I think Tommy's picked against the Eagles this year.
Yeah, I have, but
No, he has this year, but before this year, I don't know if he has.
I think I have.
If it falls to 2.5, I think it would be a good long teaser on the Eagles because I don't see them losing by 8.5.
Yeah,
No,
I think it's going to be close as well. I think it's a close game, so
Yeah.
I would agree to that. All right, let's get into the ugly part, the picks.
Yeah, so we'll start with the league. It was an under week, so it was six overs, 9 unders. It's pretty much even on the year 51-53. Another public week. The public went 11-4. The last 2 weeks, the public has been 22-7, which is just
And what
outrageous.
what was the crazy road stat too? Road favorites are like
They were
14,
9-0 or something last week, or something like that.
the
Last
last two
couple
weeks are
weeks,
like
yeah.
14-0 or something. The last 2 weeks.
Something ridiculous. So now they close the gap. It's only 51-54 on the year for the public. It was another ugly week for the Broad Street Hustle podcast. We'll start with the only one who had a favorable week. That was Meeker. He was 2-1. Well, actually, let's start with Omar because he had the best record. So
Yeah,
the best
yeah.
went 1-0, and he
Take it
had
to the
the under
bank.
the Dolphins Colts, which probably wouldn't have been under if the quarterback didn't get knocked out for the Dolphins, but he won the game. So Meeker also was favorable. He was 2-1. He hit his best bet on the Lions. So he won that game. Now you won the Panthers Commanders under, but when one of the teams scores 40 points, you shouldn't have won that.
Basically, betting on the other team being terrible like they were,
No,
part of it.
you shouldn't have won that game, but you did.
Well,
The
hey,
Ben-
look, they did 40 with a backup quarterback, so
Right,
Yeah.
right.
that's even worse.
And then the Packers lost, so that was a loss here, 2-1. We'll go with Chalky. Chalky was 1-2. Chalky lost his under on the Jets and Steelers. He won his under on the 49ers Chiefs. That was a little fortunate also when the 49ers lost every wide receiver and their mother in the game. And a couple missed kicks, but
Missed 2-point conversions.
well, you missed an extra point and then you have to chase it. So, but I won't count that. I'm more in the saying that you got lucky with the receivers and that more than the kickers. But then you lost Minnesota, so you were 1-2. I was 1-2. I lost the 49ers. We mentioned the whole wide receiver fiasco that's going on there. I did win the Seahawks, but I lost the Dolphins. Not going to make excuses. there was an issue in that game, which I already mentioned, but I'm not going to make an excuse. Tommy followed up his 0-3.
I will say
Another
I've
great.
had 3 games I played, and then out of the 3, 2 of the games I lost 7 wide receivers in.
Yeah.
Tampa
So we
Bay
mentioned
lost
the
every
49ers.
receiver, and the Niners lost every receiver.
Yeah, they were down to their fourth, fifth, and sixth wide receivers in the game. So we lost that. Lost Tampa Bay, which Mayfield blew that game. They were going to go up on them,
Yeah,
and
he threw those
that
2
changed the
bad,
game. That interception early in
yeah,
the game.
2
That
bad
changed the
ones,
game.
but specifically the at red
Yeah,
zone.
and then he lost the Vikings, so he went 0-3. So we'll start with Chalky. Chalky's 12-5 in a year. He's got a profit of $619, 71% win percentage, 36% ROI. I'm 9-8. No, I'm not. I'm reading last week's stats. I'm
I was
sorry.
going to say I don't think those numbers were adding up right.
Chalky is 13-7,
Yeah.
profit of $509, 65% win, 25% ROI. I'm 10-10, loss of $94, 50% win, negative 5% ROI. Meeker's 9-11, loss of $290, 45% win, minus 15% ROI. Tommy's 8-13, loss of $572, 38% win, negative 27% ROI. Give Omar's 1-0, so we're 41-41 as a pod. Loss of $357, 50% win, minus 4.4% ROI. And our best bets: I'm 3-3, Tommy's 3-4, Chalky's 4-3, Meeker's 4-3. Count Omar's as a best bet, so we're 15-13. We're still positive there. Overall, I'm 73-52, profit of $1,414, 58% win, 11% ROI. Tommy is 61-60, $224 loss, 50.4% win, minus 2% ROI. Chalky is 62-64, minus $684 profit loss, I guess you could say. 49% win, minus 5% ROI. Meeker's 59-63, loss of $976. 48% win, minus 8% ROI. Got to pick it up. So the podcast is now 255 and 239, loss of $474, 52% win, minus 1% ROI now. So we got to pick it up.
This league is impossible to handicap.
Well, the last 2 weeks have been an absolute joke. I mean, it's going to turn around. It's got to turn around. Like Vegas has gotten destroyed the last 2 weeks.
All right, well, let's see. We'll go with you know what? Who's ever wearing headphones can go. Oh, Chalky, you go first. You have headphones on. Not everybody can see that, but
Yeah. All right, so best bet is going to be under 47 in the Sunday night game between the Dallas Cowboys and the aforementioned walking wounded San Francisco 49ers. 49ers' healthiest wide receiver is a guy that was shot in the chest 2 months ago in a park in San Francisco. And Kittle and Mason are both limited this week in practice, so I don't know what Purdy's going to have to work with, but their defense is relatively healthy, and they've given Prescott some fits. So heavy betting on over there. I'm going to take under 47. That's minus 110. Second pick is going to be under 45.5 in the Houston game. That's also minus 110. And my third pick is going to be Bengals -3. It was started the day at -2.5. That moved. I think it's a touchdown game at least. I think the Bengals get up early and Eagles chase the whole day. So -3, -102 on Cincinnati.
okay. Meeker?
My best bet is going to be over in the Buffalo-Seattle game. It's over 47, -108. I think both of those offenses are playing well and both defenses are kind of iffy. So I think 47 is kind of a low number. I think can go over there. I'm going to take Atlanta -2.5 on the road at Tampa Bay. I think it's going to take a week at least for Tampa Bay to figure out what they're doing at the wide receiver spot. So I think Atlanta goes on the road and wins that game by more than 2.5. That's -110. And I'm going to take
-118.
118.
118.
Wow. Is it still 2.5?
It is still 2.5.
There was a Joe Public tax that was put on that game.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be a winner. And under 48 in the Eagles Cincinnati, aforementioned a Philadelphia Cincinnati game under 48. I think it's going to be a little bit more low scoring. It's minus 108. Chalky.
That is
Check.
correct. That is correct.
Those are my 3.
Okay, and I will be going with Miami as my best bet at minus 4.5, minus 108. Big public action on Arizona. Why is Miami favored in this game? I mean, it goes without saying. That strategy used to work. It doesn't work anymore in this.
You know,
game.
two is playing. Right?
Tua is back, yeah.
No, yeah, but I mean, Tua also sucks. So they should be a 4.5 point favorite and the public is heavy on Arizona. Then I have Tennessee plus 11.5 against on the road at Detroit minus 108. Detroit's coming off a big emotional divisional win, so 11.5 points is a lot of points. And then I have Cleveland plus 8.5 minus 112. Baltimore, the public's heavy on Baltimore. Cleveland stays, but the whole thing. So all strategy that once worked in the NFL for handicapping that no longer does, because I don't think the Vegas don't care about sides anymore because they make so much money on parlays and props and all that nonsense. So the sides don't really matter. So I guess you got to recondition the brain. Jason?
Well, you better not go 0-3 this week because I have 2 of your picks. My best bet is the Browns plus 8.5, minus 112. They finally have a quarterback who's somewhat serviceable with Winston playing now. I think the rest of the team is going to pipe up because of that. Ravens short week, coming off a blowout on the road, back-to-back road games, division game. Browns usually play them tough. It's my best bet. I'm going with the Jaguars plus 4. This team, I despise them, but and that should be minus 110. The Packers are in the same boat as the Lions, which is why I almost picked the Titans, but I didn't. But I like them because now take a look at the schedule and see who's playing each other next week. The Packers are playing the Lions next week. This is a letdown game, I think, for both of them. The Packers are going on the road, coming off a win. The Jaguars are very desperate. If they like Peterson at all, they're playing for his job.
Coming 2 off of London. I mean, they stayed over there during the week. So
Yeah, maybe they had some cohesion with doing that or whatever. So I'm going. I got to hold my nose with all these picks that I make, but I got to make them. I mean, this is value to me. And then my third pick is the Dolphins minus 4.5, minus 108. We got a bad line there though, Tom. That was like 3.5 the whole day today, and it jumped up another point
wow.
with the public crushing Arizona.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. If Cincinnati was 3 this morning, I would have had the Dolphins at minus 3.5 when I was looking at them.
yeah, so that's minus 4.5, minus 108. I'm not a huge Tua fan either, but he's serviceable, and they haven't had. I mean, they had that Boyle, in the second half of the game last week. I mean, yeah, I could probably play better than Boyle, right? So they finally have a quarterback. I think they're going to get. He'll miss the practice today, or he was limited. I'm not sure, but he should be all right. But if those guys are healthy, I think the offense will finally wake up. Arizona's defense stinks. Those are my feelings.
Okay. Does anybody have any touchdowns or props or I know we haven't
No,
too much
I
this year.
I need to do more research. I haven't. My touchdown picks on the podcast have been horrific, so I'm not giving one.
T. Higgins.
There it is.
Oh, you picked another Eagles game player.
There it is.
I don't really look at too many other games, so T. Higgins.
All right. Well, episode 130 next week is Breeders' Cup show.
Might be a day later.
So we will have our special guest, because next Thursday is Halloween. So family contractual things. Plus, it's my birthday, so not that that matters. So yeah, we'll probably do Friday. Special guest, of course, for Breeders' Cup. Don't need to say his name, but we all know it's Jimmy D.
Legend, the
Uh,
legend.
the legend, right? Highest rated
Say his name.
podcast.
Say his name a couple times because of the ratings. Yes, make sure people know.
The legend is coming. Yes.
All right. So episode 130, Broad Street Hustle. Have a great night.